Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are on what I think is a pretty critical mission for a lot of brands out there. We're trying to crack the code for international expansion.
And not just anywhere, we're talking about Japan.
Exactly, Japan. One of the world's most sophisticated and, let's be honest, famously difficult markets to get right.
hmm
If you've ever just, run your global content through a quick translator and hit publish, you already know that strategy can fail spectacularly.
And Japan is often the ultimate test of that. It's the market that really exposes the flaws in a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right, because it's not really about just language, is it?
Not at all. It's about rebuilding your brand for a completely different cultural operating system. We call this localization. And while it's generally a good idea everywhere, our sources show 84% of marketers report it has a positive effect on revenue in Japan.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable.
And the data we found backs this up in a frankly stunning way. The engagement gap is huge.
It's massive.
Ads that are actually created by Japan-headquartered companies, they earn up to 3.5 times higher engagement. 3.6x.
Yeah,
You just don't get a number like 3.6x without some kind of fundamental disconnect happening.
you don't. That massive gap tells you that the default global playbook is being actively rejected by the Japanese audience. It's an immediate signal of disrespect or just a total misunderstanding.
Okay, so this deep dive is our handbook to close that gap. We're going to give you the playbook for those cultural shifts, the long-term strategy you need, and even the granular ad formats that make you look like a local player, not a tourist.
Exactly.
So let's start where most companies do. Language, they get it translated and think they're done, but that's really just the bare minimum, right?
It's the absolute entry point. Simple end of the spectrum. You have to translate, of course. English proficiency just isn't high enough to rely on. But, and this is the key, translation is not localization.
Okay, so what's the next step up? Where do you start to show you actually care?
That's what we'd call the mid-level. Culture and imagery. This is where you start using local visual references.
Right, what specifically?
We're talking about using national occasions, recognizable local faces, iconic landmarks. You're using cues that say, we understand what your world looks like, and we're part of it.
So if my ad has people on a beach in California,
It's not localized.
yeah.
Even if the text is perfect Japanese, the visuals are screaming foreign.
And then there's a really heavy-duty option, the big investment.
That's the deepest level, identity. This is where a brand actively works to shed its global foreign image to become a fully embedded local player. It's a huge commitment, a massive resource allocation.
So you have to choose. Do you want to be seen as a strong global brand with a local presence, or do you want to be functionally viewed as a Japanese company?
Precisely. And that choice dictates everything that follows.
Let's get into that cultural operating system you mentioned, because the differences between, say, the US and Japan are they're profound, especially in how people communicate.
They're built on completely different foundations. We have to talk about context. Western cultures, like the US, are generally low context.
And you say what you mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If a U.S. manager wants something done by Tuesday, they'll say, I need this report by Tuesday, 5 p.m. The intent is direct. It's explicit.
In Japan.
Japan is a classic example of a high-context culture. Harmony is paramount. The language itself is built to subtly convey emotion and implication, not always direct commands.
So that same manager in Japan might say something very different.
Right. They might say something like, we must consider the optimal alignment of resources before proposing a completion window.
Which really means?
Which really means that deadline is impossible, but I will not directly contradict you because that would disrupt our harmony. You have to read the subtext.
Wow. That must be exhausting for someone used to direct answers. How does this affect day-to-day business?
It changes everything. If we look at the cultural map, the differences are stark. Take negative feedback. In the U.S., it might be somewhat likely, hopefully constructive, but direct. In Japan, direct negative feedback is very, very unlikely. It disrupts harmony. You learn to read the room for subtle cues of disapproval.
And that must tie into how trust is built. It's not just about getting the job done.
Absolutely not. In many Western markets, trust is task-based. You deliver on time, I trust you. In Japan, trust is fundamentally relationship-based. It's rooted in kizuna.
Kizuna. Can you unpack that a bit?
It's this powerful concept of enduring patient relationships, bonds, building that takes time, immense patience, and consistent presence. You can't rush it.
So if trust requires kizuna and decisions are highly consensual, that means sales cycles are just inherently longer.
And much more intricate. It's not about convincing one person. Decision-making is highly consensual because the goal is group harmony. And leadership is hierarchical. You must show absolute respect for superiors. Loyalty is deeply valued.
This hierarchy isn't just a formality then.
No, it dictates the entire communication flow.
Let's get really tactical for a second. There are some basic etiquette things that can just tank a relationship instantly, right?
Oh, the basics matter deeply. Punctuality. It is not a polite suggestion. It's a foundational measure of respect.
So being on time is actually being late.
Arriving early is recommended. Being late signals you don't value their time, and it just completely undermines trust from the start.
And what about in the meeting itself?
Respect for silence. This is a huge one for Westerners who feel compelled to fill every gap.
Guilty.
Silence is regarded as time for thought and reflection. If you rush to fill it, you're interrupting their cognitive process. You have to wait patiently.
That's a massive adjustment.
It is. And remember the collective emphasis. Focus on how your product benefits the team's success or the company's honor, not just one person's performance bonus. Oh, and the business card exchange. Both hands, offered and received with a slight bow. It's a ritual of mutual respect.
Okay, that all sets the stage perfectly for strategy. Because if trust requires this patient, long-term kazuna, then the metrics have to reflect that.
They certainly do. And if you're used to high lead conversion rates, you should probably prepare for a shock.
How bad is it?
Our sources show that a Japan-based LinkedIn member is 48% less likely than the global average to complete a standard lead gen form.
Wow, 48% less likely.
They are just not in a rush to give you their data.
That confirms it then. You cannot expect a quick turnaround. So what kind of expectation does a brand need to set internally?
You have to be realistic. Tell your leadership that conversions are unlikely within the first 3 months, maybe even longer. Your strategic priority has to shift away from quick transactional wins and move toward long-term brand building.
You're positioning yourself as a trusted partner.
A partner that genuinely understands the culture.
So if they aren't converting right away, we can't just let them go cold. How do we build that trust digitally over time?
This is where a strong nurture-based strategy becomes mandatory. You absolutely must leverage retargeting. You're sending successive valuable messages to people who have already shown some interest, visited your site, engaged with a post.
Right. It's your tool for showing consistency and value. You're building that kazuna digitally.
That's a great way to put it.
And who are we targeting with these messages? Given that decisions are so consensual, I'm guessing just targeting the CEO isn't going to cut it.
It's entirely insufficient. Because of that need for group harmony, you have to broaden your targeting to include the whole buying committee. That means a range of seniorities, different job functions.
Your goal isn't just to sell to the decision maker.
No, your goal is to enable the internal committee to reach a comfortable agreement.
So how do we equip them to do that?
You provide rich information, things that are easily shareable and defensible. Think white papers, circulated through formats like document ads. They can be downloaded and shared internally without ever leaving the platform.
And social proof must be huge.
It's powerful. Case studies, local customer testimonials. It shows that other trusted members of their own ecosystem have already validated your brand.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, what about timing? All the strategy in the world could be useless if you launch a big campaign and just hit a cultural brick wall.
It happens all the time. Global companies fail to sync with the Japanese calendar. There are critical off-seasons.
Right.
The two major ones are Shugatsu, the New Year period from about December 29th to January 3rd, and Golden Week, which is a string of national holidays from the end of April to early May.
And business just grinds to a halt.
People travel, they're with family. Business activity slows drastically. Launching a big Q4 push in late December is probably going to be a waste of money.
Good to know. And little detail from the source, Christmas Day isn't a public holiday.
Right, so don't assume that same holiday dip you see in the West outside of that official New Year period.
Okay, let's switch gears to the creative side. This is where we see that emotional deficit. We have some fascinating research here from System 1 showing why so many B2B ads just fail to land in Japan.
They fail because they're too rational. They lean too hard on that left-brain logical approach, and honestly, they just bore the audience.
The numbers were pretty shocking.
When they tested these ads using the industry standard star rating, which predicts long-term brand growth, a staggering 71% of the ads only got a low to modest star rating.
Which basically means they're forgettable. The kiss of death for brand building.
Exactly. They fail to create any kind of positive emotional response. While globally, B2B marketing might focus on specs and speed, Japanese audiences respond much better to emotion to storytelling. You have to appeal to the right brain.
So what emotional strategies actually do work?
Storytelling. With relatable characters, specific, easily identifiable settings, and interestingly, emotions like happiness and surprise are really underutilized, but they consistently have a positive impact on engagement.
And what should we avoid?
You want to dial back the left brain features. Avoid those super fast cutscenes, the constant loud voiceovers, the complex jargon in the first few seconds.
That Amazon Web Services ad we saw is a brilliant example of getting this right. It wasn't about cloud computing speeds at all.
Not at all. It told this feel-good, heartwarming story about a boy and his father. By focusing on emotion and unspoken communication, that ad scored 1.9 times higher than the average star rating.
It built an emotional connection. That's what people remembered.
It demonstrated that the tech supports human, relatable goals.
And this emphasis on connection helps with the other massive failure the research found, brand fluency, or just recognition.
Right. Brand recognition is vital. 41% of the ads tested were rated low or modest on overall brand fluency. But here's the really alarming figure.
Go on.
Over half, 54%, had low fast fluency. That means the audience didn't even recognize the brand within the first 2 seconds.
In a world where you can skip anything, if you aren't recognized in 2 seconds, you basically don't exist.
Correct. The research shows you need to hold attention for at least 2.5 seconds to influence memory. So the lesson, even for huge, globally established brands, is simple. Brand early and brand consistently.
And the Dell Technologies case study was the perfect fix for this. They didn't do anything revolutionary.
No, they just got strategic with their logo. That ad scored 1.7 times higher on fast fluency simply by making the logo prominent at the start, making sure it appeared in the middle, and then again at the end.
Just constant, consistent visual presence.
It builds that rapid recognition and helps with memory recall later on.
Okay, let's get into the tactical nuts and bolts. Copy, ad formats. Because even with the best visuals, if the language and formatting are off, you're still not going to earn that trust.
And the platform data on this is perfectly clear. Even if you can target users who list English as their profile language, you really shouldn't rely on it.
The performance difference is that big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Ads written in Japanese earn 2 times higher engagement rate and click-through rate versus those in other languages.
2 times.
Yeah.
So native fluent Japanese is a must. What about other visual cues in the copy and design that make it feel genuinely local?
Well, beyond just language, you can leverage visual cultural assets. Using pop culture references, maybe incorporating elements of manga style, gives you instant familiarity and warmth.
And there was that point about vertical text.
Yes. Tactically, consider adopting the distinctively Japanese vertical copy format. It follows the traditional reading direction, and it adds this significant aesthetic authenticity.
When we're writing the actual ad copy, or maybe a direct sponsored message, how do we reflect that cultural need for harmony and respect?
Politeness is absolutely paramount. In sponsored messaging, you always use salutations politely. Add san that's after a person's name. It's gender neutral, shows respect and formality.
And ask questions.
Crucially, yes, ask questions in your copy. Instead of making a demand, asking a question encourages polite contemplation, and our data shows this can lead to up to 20% higher engagement.
So no aggressive, loud calls to action like ACT now.
Oh, avoid those assertive imperatives completely. Your brand has to be a polite partner. Use gentle CTAs, soft invitations. For example, instead of ordering them to click, you might say, let's shift to Azure to achieve the following outcomes. It's an invitation, not a command.
Finally, let's talk technical formats. If we're focused on mobile, what should we be uploading to the feed?
Formats that take up more screen space. Vertical formats get a 10% higher engagement rate than horizontal ones. But square formats are actually the best overall performer. They get a massive 21% higher engagement rate versus horizontal.
And what about for specific goals, like awareness versus lead gen?
For brand awareness and engagement, document ads are exceptionally powerful. They get a 2.9% engagement rate for awareness and a huge 12.0% for pure engagement.
And for lead generation?
The messaging formats are the most effective there. Conversation ads have an incredible 28.6% completion rate, and message ads are also strong at 20.0%.
And if a brand wants to really make sure their message is seen everywhere beyond just the core platform?
Then you use the audience network feature. When you combine it with your feed activity, you can get 4 times more impressions. It gives you access to popular Japanese publishers and local apps.
It's all about that consistent presence.
Which, as we said, is the key to building Kizuna.
What a deep dive. If we try and summarize all this, the core insight really is that you can't just brute force your global success story onto the Japanese market.
No. It requires patience. It requires that relationship-based trust, that feeling of kizuna, and a marketing approach that respects local nuance at every single level.
From the high context communication all the way down to the gentle ad copy.
Exactly. You have to tailor both the grand strategy and the granular mechanics to genuinely resonate with a consensus-driven audience.
So, as you're all preparing to integrate these strategies, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Given this deep cultural preference for relationship-based trust and consensual decisions, how might an international brand strategically incorporate a local partner or maybe a recognizable Japanese spokesperson directly into their digital content? How could you use them to bridge that cultural gap and, really accelerate that long game of market acceptance? Think about how that localized trusted face can embody the very kizuna you're working so hard to build digitally.